See the red dot on. Recording has started. Okay. Good afternoon, dear students. Good afternoon again for the second day of the workshop. It is good to be together again. And today we have a very distinguished guest. Usually we get together side by side, face to face with her. But in these, under these circumstances, we are still lucky that we can see each other on the screen. This is a way of getting together, and we are getting familiar with it now. As long as the occasion it has this imperative, we have to get on with it. Before she starts, she has prepared a lecture for you. She will lecture shortly. I like to say a few things about her. She's Professor Karin HOFERT from ETSAP. She's herself a graduate of ETSAP. She graduated in 1986, and soon after, the next year, she started teaching at ETSAP. She teaches design in her school, and she did the operations of international relations between 2008 and 2014. And in between these years, I had the chance of meeting her. I was lucky. And she, besides teaching at her institution, she has been a visiting lecturer in various universities in Europe, in South America, in North America, in Australia, and places in Asia. Since 2014, she is a regular visiting teacher at Politecnico di Milano. And since 1995, she is the organizer of many different international workshops and seminars. She has been in numerous congresses as keynote speaker, seminar director, and in other positions. And as her private practicing of architecture, her activity is, she focuses on the refurbishment of private housing. And she has also some awards in design competitions on public space and public buildings. I guess this has been an introductory information about her. Now, let's get to know her better by her presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Umran.
You're welcome.
Lot of years, no, to achieve all that. I'm becoming old. I realized it when you were going through the list. Okay, so dear students, I'm going to introduce you to something that maybe sounds a little bit conceptual. But if it's not of direct application or instrumental for what you are doing these days during the course, for sure it will be useful for something else, at least maybe to make you reflect a little bit, or just to enjoy the hour we have in front of us. Yeah. So now I will share the screen. I hope I do it all properly. It should be here. And you will tell me if you see something. Is there?
Yes, we see it. Yes, we see your screen. Yeah.
So now, yeah. So what I'm going to speak about is what we call intermediate spaces, no? But before I start with these spaces that usually are a transition from one to another, but end up to be a space in themselves, no? Before that, I have to define a little bit what a space is and what I consider basic spaces, no? So at the end, by one definition and the other, the class is over. So that's what we are going to see and watch in the next hour. Yeah. Yeah. The first thing is, what does it mean, space? No, or what do we do to define a space? Well, we trace limits. No, when we do that on the ground floor, oh, that's not moving. Wait a minute. I'm trying to, oh yeah, now it changed. When we're doing on the ground floor, it's just, you know, extending something that tells us that's the site, that's the place, and it arrives until here. And parallel, what it does is it smoothens the ground, and it makes this very, very weak creature that is now the human being able to establish there. Imagine how weak we are that we are not able to stay somewhere that is not flat, that is not horizontal. So sometimes before extending the carpet and fixing the limits, we have to first flatten the land, right? So let's say that the process would be flatten and then smoothen, and then civilization arrives somewhere, or the human one can stay somewhere, because before that we are not able to live. Yeah, that's makes a difference from other species. Yeah, and that's why architects exist, because we are part of this process of preparing our planet for the humans. No. Second thing we do usually is to cover, no, to put something on top of us, more to protect us from the sunshine than from the rain. Yeah, sun is much more aggressive. If we are exposed to hard sunshine, we can live for a limited time. If we are exposed to rain, it's very uncomfortable, but we can live much longer. So that when we speak about, oh, again, it does not move sometimes. Wait a minute. No. When we speak about protecting ourselves, we usually think more about the shadow spenders, these gadgets that all around the world, from very primitive to more sophisticated, exist everywhere, and that are in the origin, let's say, of one of these basic typologies of space, yeah, which is the one that we call the porch. The porch is the combination of two surfaces, the one where we stay, the one that covers us, very permeable, very open to all the sides, but very closed to the sky. Then we have a second way of establishing limits, and by that defining spaces, which is by a vertical element. No, I love this picture that is from one of the Spanish islands, from Menorca, where to make it possible to grow the crop, you take the stones from the field. By that, to put them somewhere, you do it in the shape of a wall. The wall separates you from your neighbor and tells you your property is until here, and you crop the one that you have to collect is only until here. But at the same time, also this wall protects from the wind and makes it possible that something grows there. So it's absolutely efficient. No, it serves at least for three things that are essential. Yeah. But in terms of architecture, it is again a way to define a place, establish a limit. And when you go through civilization, you see that this is everywhere. No, in this case, it's not protecting from wind, or it's not just telling you this is property of them or the other. Here it's, for instance, protecting even from wild animals, or maybe from other people. Yeah, which is what happens. Oh, wait a minute. When it becomes a little bit more sophisticated, no? City walls that also define a place, in this case, you know the place, are exactly to defend you from others of your own species, of your same origin. No? So you see, they are a slightly different way of defining or of limiting a space. And we call it enclosure. Yeah, it is the one that does not take the relationship, or does not take away the relationship between us and the sky or whatever is higher up than a certain height, but it detaches us from the immediate contact to what is surrounding us. And by that has all these other advantages of protection, whatever. It's in the origin of the courtyard, no? That, as you know very well, is absolute highlight in the Mediterranean culture that we share. So now we have already seen what we can do with the vertical and with the horizontal surface in terms of defining the essence of space. I love this drawing, which is now Chinese picture that tells about I think it is a princess that is traveling along whole China and has to establish at different places at night time. No? And when they arrive there, first thing that they do is that they search for a flat place of land, as they will not establish for a long time, maybe 2-3 days. They cannot prepare the territory in that sense, so it has to be horizontal. Second thing that they do is that they build up, let's call it walls. They are done by cloth, not very stable, but stable enough to stay and define exactly a site, close it or nearly close it, and by that give it protection, but also intimacy. Once you have built up the walls, you already think, well, here that's my place, and here I'm protected, and here I'm inside, the rest of the world is outside. Third thing, or second in terms of what I do, is building up a roof. The public life will take place under this roof, inside the borders of the enclosure, but under the roof. There you will negotiate, you will deal, you will sell, you will offer your products. There, let's say, the relation between people goes on, but the one that is, let's say, open for everybody. But now we discover that there's still a third element that has probably the properties of both the others, because it has vertical elements, no, a wall surrounding, but it also has a roof. It's an object in itself. And it's actually what we identify when we say house, or when we say architecture, or when we say built element. No, the first thing is the primitive hut. That's what we identify as the shelter that will house our life. No, because we think very much in these terms of privacy. No? So that then you can go on and say, okay, I sophisticate it a little bit, I make the geometry sharper, I adapt it to the climate by sloping the roof. I can also open some hole, but it's still this one object, pretty self-referring, detached, no, from its surroundings. I can even staple it, I can put some on top of the other, yeah. Let's call it the box, because of its quality of not being in touch with its close surroundings only by little hole, little door, little opening. And it's also very self-referring, no? Exactly because of its detachment. Things go on inside, but you do not care too much what happens outside. So if you watch it carefully, you will see that actually it is a composition of the other two. And that's with how the whole world is constructed, is built up, with these three spaces, with the box, with the enclosure, and with the porch. And the combination of all three, seeing that one is already a combination of other two, covers whatever you want to do in terms of space. And I would say to you students that you take the chance and try through these eyeglasses, through this net, I don't know how to call it, to see the world. And you will discover that you can reduce everything to combinations or adaptations of these three types of spaces. And it's funny to do that. For instance, again, sorry that I'm referring to Menorca so often. It's my preferred place for holidays. Just a little place that people use, well, to stay not mostly over the day, maybe some night also. See how it is composed. Yeah, it's really minimums of residential value. No, it's the less you can do to more or less live. Yeah. Enclosure. In this case, it's not high enclosure. It's just a small wall, but it traces clearly a limit on top of a little platform. No, then this platform ground together with this very light roof builds up the space where life goes on most time of the day. And then there is still a little box behind where you do some more intimate things, and also where you have the storage, because you do not want not to expose the objects that you gather. Yeah. So that would be, let's say, something that has not even an architect behind. It's just, self-built by people of the place, no? But then you can also have the sophisticated version of it, not done by a very good architect from Alicante, who built this university that is composed by boxes, which are the classrooms, by an outer wall that has some openings, but clearly defines an enclosure, and by that, these courtyards, and then the courtyards are adequated to the climate by a roof, a porch, and by that provoke, let's say, the exchange between the students, the teachers, the life that you share when you are not inside the classroom. No? So always the three basic spaces are present wherever you go. So check it, try to see the world through these definitions. And as a reminder, think of the Matchbox. Yeah, let's close Matchbox. Now I open it, and yet inside that you have the three spaces. You have the enclosure, you have the box, self-referring space, and you have the porch. This one refers you to the horizon, to the close surrounding. This one refers you to the sky, to the birds, to the sunshine, to the wind, to the clouds, while the one in the middle just looks upon its own belly bottom. Yeah, so remember, inside the matchbox, inside an open matchbox, you have the 3 basic spaces that for the rest of your lives you will be designing. Yeah. Only the good thing is that there are so many variations that you will never get bored, neither your clients. Yeah. And if you want some other example, I bring one from my town that most of people know, where also within a reference building of modern architecture, you have all 3 spaces, no? The inside space that closed by these 4 walls looks mostly to itself, even with some openings, but here you pay attention to what is going on in the inside. At one end, you have an enclosure, you have a courtyard that takes away the view from the immediate street that is behind, but gives you an idea of vegetation, of the sky, of the light that enters here and reflects in the water. So it's a very pleasant place, but very well protected on the other side. And then you have the 3rd space that is here, facing the water basin, the other water basin, which is the porch, which is this kind of space that, is it in, is it outside? Well, it's beautiful, no? That exactly these spaces, porch and enclosure, are difficult to typify, no? To say, are they inside spaces? Are they outside spaces? They are both, right? Yeah. So now we are going to see some other examples about that. Yeah, and we picking these examples at the beginning, later on not, but at the beginning exactly from Terraces, because I know that the title of your workshop has to do with terraces. So let's see how we put that in relation. And I add something, actually it is just, the ground, the platform to the 1st space, because also, as you saw in the very beginning, when you extend the carpet, you are already defining a space. Yeah. Let's say you are giving its limits, only that this is still open and related to the whole planet, while in the way that you then close here, or you close here, or you close everywhere, it becomes a proper space. But I added the 1st point to the classification. It made it easier. So if we start from that, we can say that balconies, open balconies that don't have a roof, are sort of a platform, of an elevated flying carpet in this case, no? And by that they relate you to sunshine, to water, they permit you, for instance, to grow plants. That's very clear in the next one, no? We could be on the ground. We know we are not on the ground because we are seeing the higher part of some neighbor buildings. But actually what is happening here, all this gardening and growing vegetables, usually happens on the floor. Yeah. So that having something like a terrace roof can have the same value as being outside. Yeah, and that I think is one of the themes that you are speaking about these days, no? How important it is to integrate within your place of living spaces that have this indefinition, that that are inside, but actually are also an outside, no? Where you, well, depending on a little bit how you place your eyeglasses, it can be both. But also a platform, an elevated place can just be good because it gives you a better view of, well, in this case, a specific place, no? Well known to people in Barcelona. Let's say that the fact that you are elevated is already an advantage, no? And if it's open to the sky, it gives you another perspective than if it's porched. Not better or not worse, just different. No, usually, let's say when something is not covered, the sense of domination is bigger. No, as it seems that your view is taking in even the sky. No, it is what happens on all these pictures. No, that the view goes up to the horizon. Yeah, being it water or being it the town. No, you have a feeling of sort of being in charge of everything. No. Even being a platform, there is already a slight enclosure when you do a terrace, no? And it is the rail. Yeah, I would like to go back. Yeah, and you see how important in all these images the rail is. Yeah, it's there, and sometimes it's even very worked out. Yeah, so it's a platform. It's not exactly an enclosure, but there is already a tendency not to build up this limit. Look carefully at this drawing and look at that one. No? Suddenly there appears something that is already taking you to somewhere else. No? If I go back, this is still sort of very in touch and open to everything. And just by seeing that something could happen on top of you, the character becomes another. No? So now we are jumping to that. I do this game another time with the a picture we have in front. No? High view platform on top of the whole territory, horizon, etc. And it becomes slightly different in the moment that you porch it, put it the roof, and limit it with a wall on one side. Yeah, so here they'll have a little bit of the enclosure and a little bit of the porch, but we will go on with the porch. It gives the outer space, the porch, probably a character of insight that makes a difference to the previous ones. Here you still can keep some good viewpoint. Sometimes you do, but the roof, even if it's a very permeable roof, puts you a little bit more, I repeat, inside the building. And you know, here wind is going and when it rains you are wet, but the space character is slightly different. Yeah, and you will see it on all the examples. No, yeah, everybody knows what we are doing now, that pandemia obliges us, if we want to have some social life, to do it outside. Okay, outside but covered, and then covering permits us, it's a little bit contradictory, but we do it everywhere, to heat the outside. No, if you think in terms of climate, it's crazy. No, but well, what can we do with this situation? We try not to, trick it out with that kind of thing. Yeah. So what is that? Inside, outside. If it's even heated, who knows? It's not a matter to give it now a definition. It's just to tell you how beautiful it is when a space is not so clear in its character. That's exactly the richness. Why it makes that a space rich? Because it encourages the user to think in an open way and maybe to use it even in a not foreseen way. Yeah. It opens all kinds of possibilities for activities, and at the end, that's what we provide as architect, the space that activities can take part. No? Yeah. So now we just go through some more domestic examples with all kind of graduation in how this roof is closing or closing not so much, the inner space. Yeah. But here I did not want to say it, but I just said it. Inner space. It's already, yeah, you see, even in my back mind, the word that we are in an interior, no? With sort of big window without glasses, yeah? With all kind of furniture that, takes us to the inside. You see now the difference, no? Between the one and the other one. It seems that they, in origin, it's just a place where you put two chairs and the table, no? But the character of both, just by one being covered and the other not, is pretty different. Yeah, some more examples, no? Where, well, you do not need to see the ceiling to understand that there is a ceiling, by the character of the space and how you put the furniture there, right? So now we have finished with the, let's say, very like daily life approach, and I'm going a little bit back to sort of architecture culture. And I wanted to tell you that we were associating, or I was associating all the time, the activities to the domestic activities. But space like a porch can be absolutely necessary also for other things we need in life, no? This is now a little bit old-fashioned since we have penicillin and the derivatives of penicillin.
Antibiotics.
Exactly, antibiotics. No? But until then, and that's not so far away, maybe in the 50s, yeah, the only way to take care of people with tuberculosis, which was a very extended illness in the world, was to put them many hours outside in a good or green climate, no, with trees that no, and oxygen and all that stuff, yeah. So how you did that is you put literally the hospital bedroom outside. You made it collective and you put it outside, yeah. So this is the sanatory done by Alto, no? And on the top roof, which is exactly that, a balcony with a roof. So the space is a porch, yeah. You put all these people lying there for hours and hours, breathing the healthy air, yeah, and converting that again in what? An outer inside, an inner outside, we don't know. In a bedroom, that by definition, official definition, not now because I want to go out. No. Really, because of care reasons and public health reasons, a bedroom that had to be outside. Yeah, so you couldn't do that if it wouldn't be protected. No, so see how important this idea of the balcony, and if it's covered, in this case, even more. No, how it influences even periods of architecture with specific typologies, no? It worked so well that after some time they extended the roof, well, in not a fantastic way, but it was clear that if they extended it, they could stay even more time outside and sleep outside, yeah? Well, I told you, this is old-fashioned now, but you could imagine other uses than the domestic ones taking place in this kind of spaces. So if you think on buildings, please think a little bit more than what we always have in mind, which is the box. Yeah, think about courtyards and think about porches. Let's have a glance now on a combination of these two. We are going to visit a building that you all know, even the first year students. Yeah, with Savoie by Le Corbusier. And you will see that it is done by a combination of a porch and a courtyard. And you will say, a porch and a courtyard in a building that is elevated. Ah, okay, the porch is on the ground floor, but there is no courtyard. I say, no, no, no. I'm speaking about the first floor. And you will see that we have both. But I'm a little bit tricky, because I call that a courtyard, as this terrace is pretty closed. It just has a slice here, no, cut here where you can see outside. And I call what is the living room a porch. We are inside the living room, but the feeling that I have is that I'm just looking on the terrace and I'm on the covered part of this terrace, right? So what we usually would call a terrace, I defend, or I say that I call it a courtyard, because for me it has the character of a courtyard, an enclosure, yeah? And what we usually would call the inside, the box, I say no, by shape it is a porch. It does not matter that here there is a glass. The space is a porch that looks on the courtyard, yeah? So be also careful in your definitions, yeah, because you can, by that, I think, improve your perception and also later on your proposal of the spaces that that you design, no? And then, of course, if things move, then it really physically becomes a porch in this case, yeah. But even with the closed window, in terms of space, it is just something that covers a terrace, but a terrace that is so closed on its sides that it becomes a courtyard, no? Strange things happen. No? Here you also see it again, no? Just part of this is covered, but it is all the same space. No? Let's go for an example of a box. And this one I dedicated to Umran. This is Casa Vicens by Gaudí in Barcelona. The first drawing on the left explains you that it was much bigger than it is nowadays. The garden was 3 times or more what is now, and that justifies or why it looks in the direction it's looking, because nowadays it's just facing a big blind wall, yeah? So don't take that in account and think that, you see my pointer, no? When I point, you see it?
Yes,
yeah?
we do. Yeah,
So
we do.
this is the state nowadays, no? This part was done by Gaudí. This part was done by another architect, so that the architect that has now done the refurbishment designed a new stair that is nearly not touching Gaudí's part, but reorganizing the other part that has not the value, no, of the. But I'm not going to speak about the whole house. I'm going to speak about this little addition here that was already in the beginning, yeah, a sort of garden lounge, yeah, where you were facing a beautiful fountain that was in the middle of the big garden. Which is that? When you look from outside, it's nearly as closed as the rest of the house. Even you could think a little bit more, because here you have a lot of openings, and that is pretty, yeah, sort of intimate. It has a different definition, that's clear. It's entering the garden. The limits are done with by wooden blinds. Okay, everything is sort of more exterior-like, but at the end, in terms of space, it's very well defined and pretty closed, no? And if you look from inside, something similar happens, no? You feel like being in a light interior. You would never say this is an exterior, or I would never say, maybe you do not agree, but I would say, well, this is a wonderful garden room, but it is an insight, clearly an insight. It's such an insight that the roof, instead of being done by little blinds, is solid, and the blinds are drawn on top of it. No? So it's funny. The roof that could be like the drawing is not like the drawing. Yeah. So by the roof and by this beautiful blinds, we get this feeling of being in a very precious, special box. Yeah, a jewelry box in this case, but a box. So being a box or being a porch has nothing to do with the position. It has to do with how you shape the space. Yeah, you see that interiors can be porches and that exterior can be boxes. So take away all your prejudices. Yeah, it was what I was telling you at the beginning. We have this classification of 3, but then everything can be everything. Yeah, right. So let's go around, see it from all sides. Well, the incredible work with tiles and with the geometry of the ceiling, etc., etc. And let's jump from this strange type of space to another one, again now from Le Corbusier, where within the basic spaces there are little points where things become also sort of not exactly the classic to be classified as we do in let's say normal terms. Yeah. So now we are slightly jumping from the basic space forms to their limits. We will see that things can happen also in the limits. This is the little house that Le Corbusier built for his mom at the Lac Léman, no, in Switzerland. That again is combined by what? The box, the porch, and the little courtyard here. Yeah, box, porch, and courtyard. So the first thing to get the enclosure, the first thing to get the third space form is to close it, which at the very beginning you would say strange, no? If I have a wonderful view here, no? Why am I closing part of it? No? So what he wants is this episode. No? He says, okay, I have already an open part. Yeah. I have already the box in front of the open part and even the porch facing that. No? So let me make this third space that by definition as enclosure is a closed space, but then I will open a hole just at the very point. And if I help this opening also by a tree that limits it and gives it a sort of light roof, no? And if I underline it with chairs and a table, no? What I get is something that for sure is much more interesting than just a wide opening without limits. So again, I'm taking advantage of limits, in this case by framing what I see and by that giving it a value. No? See that this space is a space that is not just the cutting off, but it has also some depthness. Yeah, it becomes slightly a space in itself. Oh, sorry, that was my fault. Wait a minute. Yeah, it becomes something that is even more than that framing. And the framing is already absolutely important, but it gives you also the opportunity to keep something here, to leave a book, to extend whatever is going on the table. Yeah. So it starts to be a little room in itself. And that's what I will pick up now for the next example, which is not of a classical architect, but of some nowadays colleagues, two young, well, not so young now, maybe they are already 50. In the meantime, colleagues from Barcelona, that take off this idea that within the threshold there is space if you give it a little bit of thickness, and that you can live there and you can do things there, that you can live literally in the window or in the wall, yeah? Which would be symbolized by this image here. That has to do very much with what we were seeing in Le Corbusier's house for his mom. And what these teachers translate to this sort of big window that becomes nearly a room in itself, more than an extension of the room. So if you watch, you see that it is one of these hotels that are in this case in the middle of nowhere. So they start to do these enclosures, courtyards, smaller courtyards for the rooms, but then there are also some rooms that face the views directly, no? So that every room becomes a very sort of solid things in itself. You will spend hours there. It's not just a hotel where you sleep and then the rest of the time you spend doing tourism. No, it is in the middle of nowhere in a sort of desertic place of Spain. And you will spend a lot of time in the different public courtyards, but also a lot of time in your private courtyard or in your micro, whatever you call it, place looking at the views. No? So they prefer to give, let's go to the next, a definition of the room that is not very extent, yeah, and to put the square meters inside this strange thing here, yeah? Let's say that what you usually, we can say, let's see it from the other side. What you usually would do in a hotel room is you have the bed here, you have your cloakroom or storage things here, and you have the bathroom here, and this corner is for the day life. There is sometimes a table with a chair, or there is a little bigger sofa chair or something like that. No, they take the decision that they prefer to have the bathroom here. That the bathroom is something integrated to a room that is pretty small, yeah, but as you need square meters to do that, they make it open. They have the view, and then they still have to add the daytime space. So they say, okay, there is no more square meters. We fit it inside the facade. The roof will be a room. The window will be a room. Yeah, and well, now you understand perfectly what I was telling you. No, I just go through them. You see even the TV, that every hotel room has where it is. So you have two TVs, no? That one, but also that one. You have the version for the patio rooms. This is the view in one direction, and this is the view in the other direction, where the bathroom is just behind the curtain. Well, toilet is apart, but shower and all that is just here with another small window in front. Yeah. So that once we have seen how you can live in the basic spaces and how the basic spaces are not always what you thought they are, we now discover that we can also live in the limits, in the places between the basic spaces, no? Two basic spaces, some joint junction between them, no? whatever, however the junction is done, right? We can live on a bridge, or we can live even under the bridge, yeah? And I think there is probably no other bridge in the world that is so densely lived and in such many ways. Yeah? It's really a lesson of life. And we can live, in something that I have not even a name, that you find in Istanbul, the same as in Barcelona or other towns in the world, where a street for a while gets covered. What is it? A street, a porch, whatever it is a joint between one place and another, and you do not use it only just to cross through, you use it to stay there, no? Or where you have an entrance. Actually, it is just a place where the cars go through and leave you out. What is it, inside, outside? There's a sidewalk, but it looks like an interior, no? Even a very pretty one. So this indefinition you find in the limits make them specifically interesting, yeah, and attractive, and you should think how to use them to enlarge the possibilities of life. No, you can live in a chimney. Actually, that is what they did when they still had no central heating. No, how do you call it? The chimney itself became the roof of the whole room. No, or we already saw it. You can live in a window, no, or in between, or let's say inside a wall where it opens, yeah. Or you can live at the entrance, no. You can imagine that this place is not just to go in and out, that you will stay, that you will have a chat with your neighbor, or that with the postman, and that you will take something out and leave it there, and that, what is that here? Is it a courtyard? Is it a porch space? Is it a big, is it let's say a threshold? It is a threshold for sure, but is it double, simple threshold? It doesn't matter, no? It is one of these fantastic spaces that has not a proper name. Shall we call it entrance, door? No, it's much more than that, no? Where a lot of things will happen, no? Or just to provoke you a little bit, no? This is a commercial center in Barcelona that previously was a bullfight arena. Within the facade, there is the running, no, atletism. How do you call it? Pista de atletismo, yeah, where you run around.
The track, yes.
The track, yeah, no, it's within the thickness of the wall. So, yeah. Or what these kind of examples we all know, no, where you open no, a sliding window, and in summer that part of what you would call a balcony becomes, no, this outer space, part of the inside, no? You close the blinds, by that you get the intimacy. Also in summer you have much sun, so it's good to close them, yeah, and you open the window, and by that suddenly what finished here, yeah, includes, no, a sort of bonus that you just get by free, let's say, yeah. Or here, no, something similar, only that it is a step higher, no? You can use it or not. In origin, probably it's just done or good for some protection, no? Or to keep a little bit of privacy, or even to detach you maybe from some sounds, no? It's a buffer zone, but then the buffer zone starts to be something in itself, No? Yeah, that's the last example where the buffer zone is there to expose some objects, yeah, to sit there if you need to extend a little bit, what is going on here, where you can use it special days in the year, not just as a sort of display, or you can use it for your work in progress, no? And yeah, it's just 40 centimeters. It's between a supposed inside, a supposed outside. Is that inside, outside? It's roof. You do not know. Yeah. Yeah. And where I spent a good part of my life. So thank you. And I hope this convinced you to take in account all these strange spaces when you project your buildings.
Thank you, Karin. Thanks a lot, really. Thank you very much. This has been a fantastic excursion, passing through many stages, a very fantastic revision of space through many fantastic examples. Thank you. That was so nice. I enjoyed it very much. I'm sure the students did the same. So I thank you once again on my behalf and on the students' behalf.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for giving me the chance to contribute a little bit to your course. Mm-hmm.
Pleasure to have you here. Mm-hmm. Now, students, maybe you have some questions after seeing all these fantastic examples. Maybe some of them were known to you, maybe some were not. You may have questions. I'm sure Karin likes to hear them.
For sure. You're welcome. Mm-hmm. Don't be shy.
Yeah, come out, come on.
I can go through it so that, wait, it should be just the opposite. So
maybe I can put forward a topic.
Okay.
When in space making, I had the pleasure of enjoying this terrace once.
You know, whenever you want and pandemia permits it, estás tu casa. This is your house.
Thank you so much. I hope in a not too distant future, I hope. Maybe we can open up a topic, maybe students get also involved. So what space making, you started with the base plane, and in how many different forms it may manifest itself, and then the vertical elements and the overhead plane. In environmental psychology, all the researchers, scholarly writings say that the presence of the overhead plane is 3 times important than the existence of the other fundamentals, the walls, the base plane. Actually, is this not kind of an underestimation of courtyards? What do you think? What do you think?
Wow, that's a difficult question.
No, we are not looking for an exact or perfect answer. Or yeah. I always think about it. I'm convinced about the importance of the overhead plane, of course, but what about the courtyards?
Yeah. Well, on one hand, let's say that we in the Mediterranean countries have a very straight relation, not to courtyards. All of our culture, from Asia to the Greeks to the Romans, and then to the last ones that were we and the Portuguese, have been taking over the idea of the courtyard. And well, it gives this sense of not renouncing to the advantages of your climate, but being protected, no?
Yeah, surrounded, defined by the existence of other structures and left in being in the middle.
Yeah, I guess it also has
the skies.
this character that maybe has a little bit to do with our social life. We are all very social around the Mediterranean, but then we also like not to show our sort of intimate way of life, which makes us different, for instance, from other cultures more in the north, no, where they stay inside, but they have no problems that everybody looks through their windows inside. No, they have not even curtains. Or at least it is the topics, no, of Scandinavia or even Netherlands, no, for instance, if we refer northern part of Europe, yeah. So that the courtyard has this capacity that on one hand, it can be the meeting point of a family, no, that lives around, but on the other hand, it takes you away from the really proper public life, no, the one that is not, related
your own
to
outside.
the routines, no. For instance, if you think about the origin of market usually is not on a courtyard, no. Market, that is a very public activity that we share all in society, no. Exchange business usually takes part under a roof, no. While the more domestic related activities usually need, no, this enclosure, yeah. So I think that the protection is different. The protection of the enclosure is a protection of your sort of psyche. Now I exaggerate, yeah. While the protection done by a roof is really a physical protection more, yeah. Of course, then you both are both, no. But I'm improvising a little bit. I'm trying to understand, no, the possible differences in our behavior and the activities we do under or inside each of these spaces, no. And I would say that the porch in general tendentiously is more public, while the courtyard is more private, but probably we could find examples that just tell us the opposite. Yeah, I was starting to think around the Mediterranean, but other places, other customs, no, other ways of living together.
Yeah, there are different answers, but in any courtyard, I feel the existence of the skies. Not always maybe clear blue sky at all times, but that's an overhead plane. I always accept it as an overhead plane on top of the courtyards. And in the southern east of Turkey, southern east, many traditional houses have these huge, large courtyards. And the built-in or the covered parts, domestic life goes on there, but the season also allows for a longer time to live outside. Yeah. Life goes on in the courtyard. Yeah. And, you know, the traditional way of living, different generations live together, all sorrows, happinesses. People grow out in the courtyards.
The courtyard, yeah,
the sky is on top of them.
Yeah. And then something that you also discover, no, is that when you say, okay, I was sort of defending the threshold as the part that is, or the space that is going from one space to the next, actually is a transition, but in itself is also a space. But if you think very in abstract, every space is the transition to the next. So at the end, more or less, every space is a threshold. So we can really defend that living in the threshold is is comfortable, no? Because I mean, there are very few spaces that are like a dead end, no? Yeah, but of course, some thresholds are much clearer defined, no? Because this is, let's say, both courtyard, but also a covered porch often work as thresholds to the box, no? When you enter a public building, there is always a roof first, and then the door, and then you enter.
Canopy,
Or
and then,
if you enter a mosque, you have a courtyard first, no?
yes,
And then
always.
once you have crossed, so you need this sort of transition, this little bit, not instantly, but little time, not to cross from the out to the in, no? And for me, this is the richness that at the end that was meant just as a buffer, becomes something in itself, no? How beautiful it is to stay, you know, in the courtyard of the mosque. You sometimes only enter the courtyard, do not enter the mosque, you know?
Yes, there's a hierarchy in it, of course. Yeah, not getting into the main space right away, but in a procession order. Yeah, and I guess the topic for this workshop will work out very nicely. You have started with it. Tomorrow we will have another speaker from the north. He will speak to us from Finland. Helsinki, and this existence of balconies and terraces, they have become even more and more important in our lives, so as to serve as the outlets to fresh air, nature, open air, along with it bringing some sanitary aspects of life when we are locked up at home. This is a time that we understood it much better, isn't it? Karin, thank you again. This has been a very lovely occasion.
Okay, so yeah, thanks to you, no, for giving me this opportunity, and thanks to the students, for being so patient and listen. I hope you listen.
It was interesting, very interesting, very nice slides. Thanks a lot really, thank you very much. And I hope to keep this going for some more years to come, or as long as we can.
I hope that we can do that not in the virtual space, because this is the only space that I do not like too much, the virtual one. I prefer the physical space, I have to say. So I hope next year we can do that again in the physical space, I hope.
I hope so. I hope so.
On some terrace.
I hope so. The new building, the tall university, the tall faculty also has some terraces, large terraces on the entrance floor.
I know.
We didn't use it much because he always came in winter.
And and we were not very lucky with we were not very lucky with the weather. Well, we were lucky because it snowed, and that for us is very exotic, no? But it prevented us from being outside. But on the other hand, you have already seen my theory. Some of the classrooms are porches.
Yes. Yes, right.
Okay.
Now we will get on with the groups.
Okay.
If you don't feel very tired, you may, if you like to join in, you can, if you like, but maybe after.
No, I thank you. But I tell you what is my next plan. I'm just going out on the other side, not to the side that you are seeing, that is Barcelona, but to the forest that I have behind, and I will have a walk.
Oh, lovely. Enjoy it.
So I recommend also the students that in between working, they take a little time where they go out or to the terrace or to the street, because fresh air is absolutely necessary for our living. That's clear.
Yes, it refreshes us. Yes.
And as the no, as it was something about fresh air, this no, the slogan. So take it
Let's
in
get some
account.
fresh air.
Exactly, practices, dear students. I'm going to do that now.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
See you
Thank
very
you.
soon.
See you.
Bye-bye,
See you
and thank
soon.
you.
Bye
Take
bye.
care.
So.
Take care.